In this demo, I just want to quickly revisit property paths on bindings to make sure it is clear the power you have to locate the particular value you want once you have some source object. I'm going to drop into the XAML of our last demo and just point out a couple of these paths that we've been using here. Most of the bindings we've looked at take on a form like this, which is really saying the binding path property is equal to customers. The way it works out without the path property is that the binding markup extension itself has a parameterized constructor that takes one argument, and it'll use that argument to set the path property. So whether you say binding customers here or binding path equals customers, they mean exactly the same thing, just a different way of initializing the binding object. Now, another path we saw in one of the last demos was this path equals data context.delete customer command. Remember, this was with the relative source binding, where we were walking up the visual tree to get to the data grid, and then basically saying go to its data context property, which happened to be the window in that demo, and then dot your way down into that object to get to the delete customer command. Well, you can take this to the nth degree if you need to. So I'm going to go up here to our stack panel, and I'm going to add in a label and set the content of that label using a binding. That binding is going to be pointing to the data context, which is our window, which exposes a customers collection. I can then index into that customers collection and grab the first item. That's going to be a single customer object. I can then dot into that customer object, which has an orders collection, and index into that to get the second order. That order has an order items collection. I can dot down to that. I can index into that to get the first order item. That order item has a product property, which is a complex object. I can dot down to that and dot down to the name of that product and display the resulting value in my content. Now I just need to make sure that my query loads up all those related objects. So I'll go into the code behind and replace my line of code that's loading up customers so that dot includes all the related collections and objects there. With that in place, I can go ahead and run. And notice up here next to the delete button, we have Taj Mahal is the name of the product that is on the related objects there. Now, one other thing that's related to property paths that's important is debugging when a binding goes wrong. If I have a typo in my path here, say I put an inadvertent X on the end of my delete selected command, and I go ahead and run, the app is not going to blow up. It's just going to start up and run, and then you'll wonder why, in this case, the delete button is enabled and I'm clicking away on it and nothing's happening. And you'll kind of wonder what's going on there and wonder how to debug it. The important thing is when you have that kind of thing going on, you always want to look at your output window. If we go back up in our output window here, we'll see this entry that says System Windows Data Error, Binding Expression Path Error, and it basically breaks it down for you. And it says, this property was not found on this object, which is the data context object. And if you scroll over some more, it tells you the binding expression path equals this. The data item is that data context object. And then it even tells you the target element, the thing you were trying to set, was the button command property. So when you screw up a binding path, you always want to be looking for these System Windows data errors in your output window for debugging your bindings.